Hi guys, welcome back to SwitchUp. We are going to give away that micro SD card I promised. If you check the top comments, you'll see the name of the winner. We've also been given a ridiculous number of codes from Cubic Games to give to you guys, so make sure you leave those normal comments down below and we'll be replying with a few, well, more than a few really, giveaway codes. Thanks so much for the support you've given us, and as we always do, we're going to have a look at the best sales in both the European and North American regions with all the prices shown down the bottom. What's on sale? Well, oh dear. Let's find out. First up, and I'll say it early because it was in last week's video and, well, you don't want to repeat yourself too much, but it really should be picked up, and it's Sakuna of Rice and Ruin. This was developed by a very small team and is the perfect combination of Metroidvania and farming simulator. There's a particular attention and detail taken to that rice paddy maintenance, and I love the art style as well. It's got a decent soundtrack, the performance is good, it's seen a few patches since launch, and at this ridiculously low price, it's well worth picking up. It doesn't see a sale very often either. If you want to check out our full review of this one, I'll pop a link to that in the top pinned comment. Then in the North American region only, we have Celeste. I'm sure you've heard of Celeste. I'm pretty sure there's a Reddit or based entirely on Celeste, which is a brutally challenging platformer. Celeste is actually the name of the mountain, and you have to ascend it, and the main character's dealing with mental health issues, and it's incredibly poignant and well delivered. Each screen acts as its own level of sorts, and there are over 700 of them. They added the brutal B-side chapters, completely free of charge. It has a great soundtrack. It's kind of got a bit of a melancholic atmosphere, and it's up to you to try and help Madeline get to the top of the mountain. At 75% off until July the 9th, I would suggest strongly that you should do that. It's only a 1.4 gigabyte download as well. Then we've got Epistery Typing Chronicles, which I'm not going to lie, when I first saw it, I thought it was going to be one of those games for the end of the video. But then Cubic Games asked us to cover it for a dedicated, which is going to be out next week. So I was literally forced to play, and it's decent. Then I had a little Google around the internet to have a look to see what other people thought, and it's universally praised. I think saying something is the best typing game ever probably doesn't really mean much. But essentially, when you plug any normal USB keyboard in, this is a really enjoyable game. You play as the Muse, a fictional character in a world where everything is untold. And it literally starts out with nothing, and as you build the narrative by typing away, the world and story expands around you. It's very cool. It's all based around origami, and it has a lovely soundtrack. You have to collect different fragments and inspiration points, and there's actually combat here as well, which is all done through typing. Now, if you don't have a keyboard, essentially what it does is allows you to do button prompts, but really it needs to be played by plugging in your keyboard into your Switch dock or using an adapter and doing it straight into the Switch to experience it to its fullest. It's currently 20% off, which is its lowest ever price. I mean, it's just come out, and that goes on until July the 15th. This one's been rocking a very low price recently. It comes from Daedalic Entertainment, who seem to be riding that kind of sales flow that a lot of developers do. But I mean, we played this back when it was full priced, and we really enjoyed it. It's split between two characters, Richard Nolan, who essentially finds that his wife has disappeared and doesn't know what's going on, and an AI version of him. Now, I can't go too much into details, but it plays out a little bit like Blade Runner meets an old school LucasArts title. There are a few quirkier moments, but things like performance are really good, and the developer mixes it up with a few interesting ideas and puzzles. I thought it was a good story and enjoyed it from start to finish, and at $1.99 or your regional equivalent at 90% off until July the 8th, it's definitely a pickup for me and for anyone that's maybe a fan of more old school adventure titles. There's a bit of a theme this week, and that's that everything's pretty much very, very cheap. Next, we've got Butcher, that comes from publisher Crunching Koalas and developer Transhuman Design, and it describes itself as a fast-paced 2D shooter. And well, that's exactly what it is. It's full of blood and gore and violence, lots of chunky weapons, different difficulty modes to play through. I'm sure you'll find something that suits you. And it's just one of those mindless pick up and play games that sometimes you need when you're trying to find out what you actually want to play. I call these loading games. And Butcher is a very good loading game. Another one is Akane, which is always on sale as well. It's only 152 megs, and at 80% off, it's well worth picking up. Then we've got Northgard, which Glen reviewed for us on the channel. It's currently at its lowest ever price, 60% off. Down to $13.99. This one again has received good reviews across the board. A few people were quite upset because the performance wasn't great at launch. It has seen a couple of patches. It's still not perfect, but it's actually pretty decent. It has an online 1 to 6 multiplayer, and it is a real-time strategy, perhaps a bit more in the Settlers vein than Command & Conquer, but it's decent. You can build your settlement up. On the newly discovered continent of Northgard, you have Vikings to assign to different jobs like farmers, warriors, sailors, lawmasters, but having the ability to play against a friend online I think is a real win if you can find a group. There is a bit of DLC for this one as well that's also on sale, the Clan of Snakes and the Clan of the Dragon DLC. I think they're like 60% off each. So if you're after a good RTS, which is quite difficult to find with over 100 hours of gameplay, I think you could do a lot worse than this for this crazy low price, and that's until July the 11th. Now Glen is definitely the fighting game fan on the channel, and I can't remember why it was. For some reason I ended up playing this Guilty Gear Double Cross or Guilty Gear XX Accent Core Plus R, nice name, and I absolutely loved it. It was brilliant. It holds a user rating of 9.3, which is pretty damn impressive, and allows for offline 1 or 2 player or online 2 to 6 player. There's a story mode here to work through, as you'd expect, but actually there are over, I think there are over 12. There's 13 different game modes in here, and a variety of different difficulty modes. I actually got to sit back and watch Glen play through on the hardest game mode, which didn't actually look humanly possible, but annoyingly he managed to finish. I just don't understand how people get so good at these games. Is there like a counter to every move or something? It's just, yeah, it's a bit of a mystery to me. I need to get good at these. It's a 4.2 gigabyte download, 35% off until July the 8th, and it's definitely worth it. When I first reviewed Hell Warders, it looked amazing. Well, no, it didn't look amazing, let's be honest. It looked decent, but the performance was trash. And what they've done since is work on the performance to bring it up to 60 FPS, but they had to kind of lower the visual a little bit. They found a decent balance, like it runs at 60 FPS now, and if you're just the kind of person who goes for gameplay, you're going to love it. It does have 4-player co-op. It's one of those combination of action games come tower defense. So you have to build up your defenses before these hideous denizens of hell come flooding out of a gate, and you can also shoot them manually. It has that third-person action game element to it. There are different heroes to choose from, each with their own abilities and classes, and you can upgrade those towers, I'm using that in air quotes, between each round. If you're able to find people online, I mean, I don't know what the state of the service is like at the moment, but if you are able, or you join our Discord and set up a game, it's brilliant. It's so much fun with other people, but I would say it kind of needs those other people online for it to be its best game, but you can play single player if you want. As I say, 80% off, $2.99, or your regional equivalent, until July the 16th. Now, before we look at the hidden gem for the week and a couple of games you should avoid, we've got Raging Loop, which was recommended by Glen. He did a review of it for our channel and he absolutely loved it. Now, personally, I'm not a big fan of visual novels. That's probably because I haven't actually played many of them, but this one was very enjoyable. It's all centered around a strange village where, I mean, I can't say much without spoiling it. But let's say they combined Groundhog Day and American Werewolf and then sprinkled on some Gothic, and you might get somewhere close to Raging Loop. It's all based around Japanese folklore though, and the narrative storytelling is excellent. It's a game that you'll have to play multiple times, but there's also a new game plus mode. So it actually offers a really good amount of content. If you're going to do everything, it's over 40 hours. And yeah, it matches the lowest price it's ever been. It's 50% off. And maybe if you're looking for your first foray into visual novels like I was, this might be one to consider. It's $14.99 or your regional equivalent. Last but not least then is our hidden gem for the week. Now this was described by one reviewer as too hard to be fun. And look, this is not a everyone's going to enjoy it type of experience. It's very much a tough side-scrolling adventure game that requires timing, it requires skill. Sometimes it can feel a bit unfair because you'll be outnumbered, it's dark, and yeah, it's very difficult. But also, I thought it was quite beautiful. I like the storytelling. I like the way it flashes back to the main character's past, and it has an incredibly atmospheric feeling to it. It's very much a me kind of a game. I do like to be challenged. I like not to have everything given to me on a plate. There was a point early on in this where I thought the game was broken because I couldn't actually figure out what to do. But once I realized it was actually very straightforward. The combat's tough. You've got the ability to roll out the way, you can block, but you actually have to hold onto your weapons. Like you can jump up and actually drop your swords. So there's a few things in there that might frustrate some players, but also I think you're going to know if you're the type of person that enjoys, well, to be challenged, I guess. It's published by Big Sugar. It's 2.4 gigs. And it's also very short. I mean, you're looking at around about 4 or 5 hours. So yeah, this is essentially like, I don't know what, cinema experience type of price. But whether or not you'll be able to finish it in that time, yeah, maybe not. 30% off, I'd say it's worth it. It is a hidden gem, or at least one to add to your wish list. A couple of games then to avoid because they're so bad, but they look so good. First up, we've got Grey Skies, a War of the Worlds game, which is anything but just terrible. The movement's janky, the storytelling's janky. I mean, next to where it says the download size on the box, if it had one, it would say requires user to enjoy incredibly janky games. It's a shame because it's also one where you look at the screenshots and go, ooh, that looks tasty. And then you see it in action and begin to feel slightly nauseous. Avoid this one at all costs. And finally, we've got G.I. Joe, Operation Blackout, which I reviewed on the channel and which had probably the worst AI I've ever experienced. Now look, it's based on G.I. Joe. Yes, there's going to be like millions of soldiers attacking, but unfortunately, it's just not fun. The combat's terrible, the level design's appalling, and there are a few little vehicle sections as well, which I had hoped would be the light at the end of my review tunnel, but they really weren't. I took my hands off the controls and realised that I couldn't die, and that was probably the moment which I gave up and relegated this one permanently to the avoids list. So that's it for this week. Let me know in the comments, have you picked up any games? We have some brilliant game reviews for you next week. I can't say exactly which because the embargo terms don't say exactly which, but I can promise you'll be wanting to stick around. Congrats to those people in the comments. If you want to win a code for next week's sales video, just leave your own. And as always, a big thanks. We've had a load of patrons after I mentioned about, well, we got a ton of codes for them in. I mean, is that like is that like human nature, just going to become a patron because you're going to get more free stuff? Wow, I'd probably do the same, to be fair. Thanks to all of you anyway, and to everyone that watches the content. And as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya!
We can't sleep under the stars or